When Olivia told me she'd be spending the weekend at her friend Sarah's place, I didn't think twice. We'd been married 6 years. She was social, spontaneous, and had always valued her girl time. But something about that Friday morning felt off. A hesitation in her tone, a pause too long when I asked if she'd packed her charger. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Still, I brushed it off. I'd been working long hours lately. Maybe I was just being paranoid. The house felt strange that night without her laughter echoing through it. I poured myself a drink, scrolled through my phone, and found a random text from her that read, "Made it to Sarah's. Don't wait up," followed by a heart emoji. Except, Sarah had posted an Instagram story an hour later. A picture of her and her fiancé at a beach 3 hours away. The caption read, "Weekend escape with my love red heart." I stared at that story for a good minute, my pulse thudding. There was no way Olivia was with Sarah. And if she wasn't, where was she? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but that seed of doubt took root fast. My mind started stitching together fragments I'd ignored. Late-night texts, sudden work events, new perfume she'd never worn before. I told myself I'd find out the truth without making a scene. So I sent her a message. "Hey, tell Sarah I said hi. How's her fiancé? Still planning the wedding?" No reply for 15 minutes. Then 30. Then an hour. When she finally texted back, it read, "Oh, he's great. We were just talking about that earlier." Except Sarah's fiancé wasn't in town. He'd been tagging his location all day from another state. That was it. I knew she was lying. I felt that peculiar calm that comes right before a storm. The kind where you stop being emotional and start thinking clearly. The next morning, I checked our shared phone plan. Olivia's number showed several outgoing calls to a contact named Mark W. Over the past few weeks, one at midnight, one during her supposed work trip, and one right after she told me she was at Sarah's. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I crafted a message, short, sharp, and deliberate. "I hope you and Sarah are having a great time. I just ran into her at the gas station. She said she hasn't seen you in days." I hit send and set my phone on the table. Within minutes, 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, her reply popped up. "Wait, you saw her? Are you sure?" I didn't answer. I wanted silence to do the heavy lifting. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Olivia. I let it ring out. Another text followed. "I'm coming home. We need to talk." By the time she pulled into the driveway, her eyes were puffy, and her hands trembled as she grabbed her purse. I stood at the kitchen counter, expressionless, while she stumbled through a story about miscommunication and last-minute plans. But when I asked her where she really was, she broke. She said she'd gone to a friend's cabin to clear her head, except the cabin belonged to Mark W., her coworker. She swore nothing happened, that she just needed space. It was pathetic, watching someone who once spoke to you with warmth now fumble through lies like a cornered thief. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just said, "You had your chance to tell me the truth. I gave you every opportunity." She cried, begged, said she was sorry, said she panicked. But all I could think about was how easily she'd looked me in the eye that morning and said, "Don't wait up." And I realized the version of her I loved was already gone long before that weekend. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, twisting her wedding ring as though it could rewind the last 24 hours. The silence between us was heavy enough to hear the refrigerator hum. "I just needed time to think," she whispered. "Things between us have felt different. I didn't mean to hurt you." I stared at her, not because I wanted to intimidate her, but because I wanted to see if she'd look me in the eye. She didn't. Her gaze stayed fixed on the table like a child caught stealing. "What exactly were you thinking about, Olivia? Whether to stay married or to test drive someone else?" I asked quietly. Her lower lip trembled. "It wasn't like that." I almost laughed. "Then tell me, why the lie? Why say Sarah's name if you just needed time alone?" She hesitated, fumbling with words. "Because I knew how it would sound. Mark just listened, that's all. He understands me in ways you don't anymore." There it was, the justification every betrayer clings to. He understands me. I'd heard it before, from friends, from stories online, always the same self-pity packaged as reason. I stood up and walked to the counter, my mind oddly calm. I almost believed you. I almost let it go. What do you mean? I turned, leaning against the counter. That text I sent about Sarah. She wasn't at the gas station. I made that up. Her eyes widened. You what? I needed to see how fast you'd run when the lie caught up with you. She exhaled sharply, realization dawning. You tricked me. No, I said, voice steady. I gave you a mirror. Her tears came faster then. Apologies, explanations, all tangled together. She said she'd end things with Mark, that she'd block him, that she'd do anything to fix us. But her words meant nothing. Because once you've seen someone fabricate an entire weekend, you can't unsee it. That night, she slept in the guest room. I stayed awake, replaying our years together like old home movies. The vacations, the inside jokes, the night we moved into this house. Every memory felt counterfeit now, tainted by the ease with which she'd replaced honesty with convenience. By morning, I'd already made up my mind. When she came downstairs, puffy-eyed and fragile, I was dressed for work, suitcase by the door. What are you doing? She asked. Leaving, I said simply. You can keep the house. I'll send papers this week. She froze. You're just walking away? Olivia, I said softly. You walked away the moment you chose to lie. I didn't shout, didn't slam the door. I just left. 3 weeks passed before she texted again. The message was long. Apologies, memories, promises of change. She said she'd quit her job, that she hadn't spoken to Mark since that night. I read it all, then typed a single line. Some truths can't be undone, only remembered. I hit send and blocked her number. The months that followed were strangely peaceful. The silence that once felt like loneliness now felt like air. I started running again, joined a gym, met people without second-guessing every glance at a phone. I realized trust isn't about believing someone. It's about not having to verify everything they say. Occasionally, I'd see her name pop up on mutual friends' posts, smiling, pretending like the world hadn't collapsed under her own choices. I didn't feel anger anymore, just distance, like watching a stranger from across a crowded room. Then one evening, almost a year later, I was leaving a cafe when someone called my name. I turned, and there she was, Olivia, hair shorter, eyes dimmer. She looked like a ghost trying to remember how to be alive. I never stopped loving you, she said quietly. I nodded. You just stopped being honest. She blinked back tears, and for a moment I thought she might say something more, but she didn't. She just whispered goodbye and walked away, disappearing into the evening crowd. As I stood there, watching her fade, I realized my single text hadn't just made her run home that night. It had also forced me to find my own way back to self-respect, back to peace. Because sometimes the truth doesn't destroy you, frees you,